in decaying leaves and death. All smells Charlie knew well. Earthy smells, tingly smells, smells that seeped right into your blood and wrinkled your soul.
Hurry up! Day's near done and we still haven't got first spoils.
Dad flashed the blinding flashlight from Charlie's face to the woods and to the river beyond. Tall buildings crowding the distant bank. The moon had already risen like a pale eye above the river. Charlie shook off his uneasiness and rushed to catch up with his dad. "I'm coming!" Charlie stumbled on a branch, then took a giant leap forward. They had a job to do, just like every other night. Charlie didn't have to like it, and he didn't. Not a bit. If they found a body, they'd take anything of value and leave the corpse for the water witches. Not that he believed in water witches. Not anymore. Charlie knew river hags and spirits and witches were just stories to scare the kids who didn't have to go wading in the river or sloshing through the muck to survive. They weren't stories for Charlie to believe. They were stories for children. Still, Dad had always liked trying to scare Charlie. Always. But Charlie was 11 now, and he wasn't afraid of Peg Powler or Ginny Greenteeth or any other water witches Dad told him about late at night as he lay curled up beside the fire, trying to catch a scrap of warmth. When Mom was alive, she'd glare at Dad and tell him to stop scaring their boy. But Dad would just laugh and go on about the hags with their green skin and long hair and wicked, sharp teeth. Charlie'd been out scouring the muddy banks since his mom died 4 years ago, and he'd never seen a river hag. Not once. Boots squelching in the mud, Charlie stepped into the cool, brown water. It swallowed his feet up to his ankles. His foot crunched on a bone, snapping it like a twig.
Look lively now. We got something.
Dad swung his flashlight along the muddy, stone-speckled riverbank to the corpse lying at Charlie's feet.
Get your light on and let's see what we can find.
Dad's favorite things were jewelry and waterproof watches, especially gold ones. Cash too, if the dead still had their wallets. Anything Dad could use or sell at the pawn shop or market would suit him just fine. Charlie wished they didn't have to steal from the dead to survive. Maybe it was only an animal this time. Charlie hoped. He always hated finding humans. Charlie flicked on his flashlight and looked more closely at the broken brown shaft that lay on the stony riverbank just beside a pelvis.
Species?
His dad leaned over to have a closer look. Human. Charlie swallowed a mucousy lump that had formed in his throat. He'd found bodies before, robbed from them. Plenty of them washed up on the riverbank. Some murdered, some suicides. Some you couldn't tell. All a side effect of living near a big city. But Dad said none of that mattered. What mattered was what they still had to offer the living. Dad shone his light over the broken bones, searching for a glint of gold or some other treasure. But this one had nothing to offer. This poor man, if he was a man, was long dead. His clothes had washed away with every other bit of them, except a few of his bones.
Now don't go getting all mushy on me, boy. It's just a skeleton. Nothing but old bones.
Dad nudged the pelvis with his toe.
We don't have all night. We need to find something to sell or we'll have nothing to eat tomorrow.
He shone his light up one length of the river, then down the other.
I'll head upriver, then you go down. You find anything interesting, give me a holler and I'll come.
Charlie gasped. Dad was actually sending him along the riverbank? At night? Alone? He'd never gone downriver on his own before. Or upriver either. Fear and pride swelled in his chest. He didn't want to go alone. In the dark, hunting bodies.
Not afraid, are you, Charlie?
Dad chuckled, a wicked grin on his face. No.
Worried old Jenny Green Teeth will come out and grab you?
I don't believe in witches. Charlie stood up taller and tugged on the straps of his backpack. I'll go downstream. You go up. I'll call if I find anything. His dad nodded.
And I'll do the same.
Charlie hesitated, the beam of his flashlight bouncing from the bones at his feet to his father's face.
Well, don't dawdle, son. The tide'll be up in a few hours and we've got work to do. You're old enough now. Get to it.
Charlie swung his light downriver and, without a backward glance, marched through the muck, away from his father and into the lonely night. Muddy river stones churned underfoot, and Charlie swung the beam of his flashlight over the riverbank, searching for anything they could use. An item without a body was best, but he rarely found those. At least not valuable ones. What was that? Just there, past the edge of the riverbank. He thought he saw a pale form beneath the water. A human form. Flashlight quivering, Charlie stepped closer to the river's edge, his light shining down, down, down into the rippling water. Nothing but stones and branches and mud. He could have sworn he'd seen a human shape. He shone his light right and left. Nothing. No one. A sharp tug from behind made Charlie gasp. His heart raced and beat against his ribs. He spun, light flailing against the darkness, praying to find his dad there trying to scare him. Charlie sucked in a laugh. A long, gnarly branch was caught in his shirt, poking his back like a bony finger. He broke the branch and tossed it aside. He'd better get on with finding something, or he and Dad would have no supper tomorrow night. Turning back to the river, Charlie stopped mid-breath. Floating on her back like a monstrous mermaid was a woman. Her skin was pulled tightly over her skull, and her lanky, dark hair billowed out around her face like a black halo in the water. She must not have been dead for long. She looked almost alive. Almost. Charlie sighed. He'd best get her out of the water and see what he could scavenge. Setting his flashlight on the ground, its beam aimed toward the river, Charlie sloshed in up to his shins. He reached forward to grab the woman by her armpits, his fingers sinking into her putrid flesh. Then he made the mistake of looking at her face. That's something he never did. Look at the face of the dead. Her nose was long, her cheeks bony and hollow. Then, suddenly she opened her eyes and smiled. Sharp teeth, dark eyes, green skin. Charlie tried to move, tried to run, but her gaze held him in place. Her snarly smile ensnared him. She reached up and up and up until her bony hands clutched his arms, skeletal fingers digging into his skin. And then she pulled him down, 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 down into the swirling river. Cold water rushed over his skin and into his mouth. He couldn't call out for help, couldn't scream, couldn't move. And one last thought floated through his mind before her wicked claws yanked him under. Jenny Greenteeth was real.
Talk about it, tidal brain. A little grave robber thought he could make a big splash cashing in on corpses. But that water witch liquidated his assets. Well, that's it for the show. If you enjoyed it, give us a like. It really helps the channel. I'll see you next time